Hi there guys, I hope you are having a good day. Now, Dillian Whyte has explained he would be happy to go over to the UFC and fight heavyweight champion Francis Ngannou. Now, also Ngannou wants to come over to boxing, so it is interesting how Dillian Whyte's happy to go over there and face him, and Ngannou wants to cross over to boxing. Now, Eddie Hearn previously proposed that perhaps Dillian Whyte could fight in UFC. Then they could do a rematch in boxing or vice versa, one in UFC, one in boxing. Dillian Whyte said he's at this point in his career where he wants the meaningful fights, and that is of course alluding also to a world championship opportunity, something he has been waiting for an extremely long time. We know about the 1,000 days as number one in the WBC rankings, so there is that, but does he really want to go away from boxing at this stage? Well, he does need another fight, and he does need another fight before 2022, which is when he is likely to get his world title opportunity. So is Ngannou a possibility, maybe in the boxing ring, then UFC as well, because he does want to fight twice this year still. He has fought once against Alexander Povetkin, which was a rematch in which he exacted revenge over him from the first fight. So if Dillian Whyte wants to remain active this year, there is a big question mark as to who he might face. Deontay Wilder was one of them, but the thing is with Wilder, he explained, they offered him $8 million to fight, but he took $1 million to fight Luis Ortiz instead. So that was when Dillian Whyte was trying to get his world title opportunity, and that was also when Deontay Wilder was WBC champion, yet he did not give Dillian Whyte the opportunity. So at the moment the roles are kind of reversed, where Dillian Whyte is higher up the rankings than Deontay Wilder. He is in that position, and Wilder needs him more than Whyte needs Wilder. So I guess what Whyte is saying is, why does he need Deontay Wilder? Yes, it's a good fight, and yes, he wants to get in there and teach him a lesson, but there is not much to gain from him fighting Wilder. Not a lot has changed for Dillian Whyte. I know that Deontay Wilder is no longer champion, and Dillian Whyte previously lost to Povetkin, but Dillian Whyte is all about the fights, so therefore he wants to fight Wilder, he wants to fight Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua again. It doesn't really matter what position they are in. He wants to fight them, but when it comes down to him giving them the opportunity, him giving Deontay Wilder an opportunity, he's kind of saying why should he in his current situation when Wilder did not give him the opportunity when he was in that position of being a champion. I know that Whyte is not currently WBC champion, he is interim champion, but that fight would give Wilder a good opportunity to get back to the top. And the big question is, does Whyte really want to mess around with Wilder? Because what is the guarantee that Deontay Wilder would even face him anyway? So there is the worry that it is just a waste of time for Dillian Whyte as Wilder builds his profile as he has done when he was trying to negotiate the Anthony Joshua fight. It is going to be difficult for Dillian Whyte to find an opponent. I mean, Ruiz is a great fight, but it is a risky fight as well for Dillian Whyte, and as I said, he does need his world title opportunity. He's had some great fights, 50-50s, and he's done that back to back. At some point, he does need to realise that something needs to be left so that he's able to compete at the top level in his world title opportunity, because those tough fights do put miles on the clock. Now, a fight with Francis Ngannou is a little bit different, and in boxing it's going to be difficult for him to maintain his ranking and maintain his interim status by fighting a novice boxer as he would be, because Ngannou would be 0-0 starting out in the pro game and fighting Dillian Whyte in his first fight. So it would be difficult for him to maintain that interim status because he wouldn't be fighting a WBC ranked opponent. It is going to be more possible for him to cross over to UFC and fight for the heavyweight championship in that sport, and I believe that Dillian Whyte has more chance than if he was going over to fight a wrestler, because Ngannou is a striker. He has some wrestling to his game as well, but he is more of a striker than he is a wrestler, so that does give Dillian Whyte more of a chance. So I believe that it would be easier for, say, Dillian Whyte, who has had a fight in mixed martial arts, to go over to the octagon and fight Francis Ngannou. It would be easier for him than Francis Ngannou coming over and winning against an Anthony Joshua, Tyson Fury, or say Dillian Whyte. I think that Dillian Whyte could explore this avenue. I'm not entirely sure whether it's in his best interest to do so next, considering he has waited so long for a world title opportunity in the heavyweight division in boxing. But again, Undisputed will take up 2021, so he does need to find alternative options to that world title chance. And say he's not able to secure a Deontay Wilder and Andy Ruiz, which is a real tough fight for Dillian Whyte, Andy Ruiz. We've spoken about that in the comments before. That is a real tough fight, much tougher I believe, and some of you believe as well, than Deontay Wilder. So if those options do not work out, if Ruiz doesn't want it, if Wilder doesn't want it, or for whatever reason those negotiations break down, then who does he face? Does he face a Pulev, former Anthony Joshua opponent? That is possible. Trevor Bryan, I don't think Trevor Bryan has any intentions of facing Dillian Whyte. Things might change, but again, I don't really see that fight happening. I believe that would be a good avenue to explore for Dillian Whyte. There are a few other options, maybe a rematch with Joseph Parker if he beats Chisora, maybe even a trilogy with Chisora if he beats Parker. Winner of Joe Joyce versus Usyk is always a possibility, but the winner of Joe Joyce versus Usyk, you have to question what does Dillian Whyte really gain from that, because the winner of that fight will become a WBO interim champion. Dillian Whyte's already WBC interim champion, so he would kind of be trading one belt for another, because I don't believe you can be interim status with two different governing bodies. I mean, that interim status does dictate that the champion must face the interim champion when they are able to do so. That will apply to the WBO, that will apply to the WBC, but I don't see the point in him dropping the WBC to go for the WBO interim status, because as I said, you can't be champion or interim champion of both at the same time, because the idea of that status is so that the heavyweight division does not stagnate as a result of the champions being, say, tied up in undisputed or injured, medically exempt. So that is the idea behind that interim status, to stop the heavyweight division or whatever division in boxing from stagnating, to keep it moving. That is the reason behind Joe Joyce versus Usyk fighting for the interim status whilst Usyk is mandatory, because otherwise what does he do in the meantime when he's waiting for a world title opportunity whilst undisputed happens twice in 2021? Wouldn't it be ironic that Dillian Whyte gets a world title opportunity in UFC against Francis Ngannou before he gets a world title opportunity in boxing? That would be kind of ironic, and imagine if he was able to win it. Francis Ngannou is undoubtedly the favourite in the octagon, and Dillian Whyte is undoubtedly a heavy favourite in boxing, but I do believe that Dillian Whyte has a chance in the octagon against him, because as I said previously in the video, Dillian Whyte is a stand-up fighter, so is Francis Ngannou, so there is potential for that to happen. One in boxing, one in UFC. Eddie Hearn has explained that that is definitely possible, so perhaps that is something we get to see, something that Dillian Whyte is actually interested in. And Ngannou also, because he does want to come over to boxing. Anyway, guys, what are your thoughts on this? Make sure you leave your thoughts in the comments below. Also leave a like and grab that subscribe button. Thanks guys.